Hey y'all, how's it going? And welcome to Drop Ramp Intel, where I'm here to share my story about my journey through the VA disability benefits process and how I became a 100% permanent and totally disabled veteran the day after I left service. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully this video has some quality information that may assist you or another veteran seeking the benefits that you deserve. When you're planning to leave the service, you need to have a plan in place, and that plan includes a plan on dealing with the Department of Veterans Affairs too. In the military, we had a term for this called a PACE plan. Okay, you got your primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency plan. Okay, in place before setting off on any mission. So why wouldn't you think of doing that with the VA? The same way. Do not just get out and think you are going to get all the benefits right out the gate. That rarely happens. There are veterans that fight their entire lives for VA compensation and never get the benefits that they deserve. Luckily for us, we are in a unique situation with this new day and age of technology. It's easier than ever to do the research and take some of the guesswork out of the equation. We also need to remember that those that came before us paved the way through the hard path to ensure that future generations of service members have access to this valuable resource. With only about 30% of veterans receiving VA disability compensation, it seems many decide not to pursue what they have rightfully earned. So with that being said, it's up to you and only you to get after those life-changing benefits that you deserve and not be lazy about it and think, oh, someday I'll file for it or someday I'll get around to it. Like the old saying goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. The advice I'm about to give goes out mainly to those active duty and about to transition out into the civilian world, but may also be beneficial to those who have already been out for quite some time. So here are my personal steps in order to those thinking about filing a VA claim with the Department of Veterans Affairs soon after they leave service. So let's get into it. Before I go through the steps, here are the 3 things you guys will need for a successful claim each and every time. You need a current diagnosis. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you got one, you're a go. If you don't, that's a no-go. And I know you understand that. So go get you a diagnosis. The next is symptoms. You have to have symptomologies to even get a diagnosis. So if you got a diagnosis, you probably got symptoms. That's a go or no go. And last but not least is a medical nexus. All that really means in layman's terms is a link to your service. How does that disability link to your service? Well, thankfully for you guys who are still on active duty, it kind of takes care of itself. You're still wearing the uniform, right? So although you will need to provide a current diagnosis, a go, the medical nexus and the symptomology is already probably wrapped up into your MHS Genesis records or your old TRICARE records or whatever you have that you were getting seen by the medic, the local aid station, your primary care physician. That information's got to be in there if you have a diagnosis. With that being said, let's get into the 5 things I would say an active duty service member should pursue in order before filing a VA claim. So first, gather all your medical documents. This is everything from those small interactions with the platoon medic all the way to any major surgery that was performed and everything in between, like those pesky PHAs to make sure everyone was up on their med pros, right? The platoon's got to be green. Well, you should be able to find any problem issues you had or have, especially while you are still on active duty, with access to your personal MHS Genesis account that was once previously labeled as TRICARE Online before the whole system got switched over. Download everything, and I say again, download everything that is on that site and save it to a hard drive that you will not lose. That is what I like to call a golden ticket, as it should have all your diagnoses and hopefully close a $1 million deal. Second thing, after you have that medical information, go through it with a fine-tooth comb and actually read it. Please actually read it. While doing this, you need to be writing down everything on some sort of scratch sheet of paper. Remember that old saying in the military, gotta have a pen and paper with you at all times? Yeah, you gon' need it now. You gon' need it now. And write those diagnoses in a bullet format, okay? You might just be surprised on how many issues you had, especially for those that ended up doing multiple enlistments. With that list you just made, it's time to see what the VA itself thinks of those conditions and if they actually have any sort of disability rating associated with them by using publicly available knowledge. So my third point is you're going to want to look up those conditions and how those said conditions are rated per the 38 CFR Chapter 1, Part 4. Okay, this is a legal black and white available to anyone to look at and gets updated on an annual basis. I'll leave the link down in the description below so you guys can download it from yourself. It's from the va.gov website, so it's safe. Do with it what you will. In this document, Control F is going to be your best friend. For example, I personally have sleep apnea, and before I left service, I was curious about what the percentage of that disability holds by law. Everyone I talked to, though, didn't seem to know the answer and would say things like, oh, that's a 100% rating, or that's a 40%, or that's even 30% right there. Well, I got curious, and I had to know what the proper rating was associated so that I could plan my future and see what my approval might look like. When I used the 38 CFR, I did find that sleep apnea did have a 100% rating. However, these crazy words followed it verbatim. Chronic respiratory failure with carbon dioxide retention or colpulmonal or requires a tracheostomy. And I knew immediately I wasn't going to receive that specific percentage. Upon further reading, though, the second line started to resonate with me a little bit more. It said, it requires the use of a breathing assistance device, such as a continuous airway pressure machine. And they have CPAP in there. I knew right then and there that that was the percentage that I personally should be looking at for one of my claims. Then it's all just a rinse and repeat process with each and every condition you have, going step by step through 38 CFR, Chapter 1, Part 4, Control F-ing each condition, and just read it. You'll come up with a disability percentage, or a rating percentage, I should say, for each one of those claimed disabilities. Fourth, now that you have an idea of what everything is worth, percentage-wise on your own specific list, it's time to see if anything else is missing. And what I mean by missing is if you have any other conditions that have been bothering you while on active duty and you have neglected to get seen at sick call, the aid station, or your primary care physician for them, now is the time to get in. Don't wait. Now is the time to get seen. Do not waste your last days wearing that uniform, BSing around with your homeboys in the barracks. I understand. I have been there. But you are on a mission to take care of yourself and get seen while you are still covered. Those aches and pains that you think, they're whatever now. Yeah, well, they're only going to get worse over time. And you will thank yourself in the long run for getting it on paper before that DD-214 is in your hand. And fifth, so let's get into some quick VA math. So you know what you are going to claim and you have an idea of a percentage for each one of those items. Well, a little heads up, VA math isn't exactly what you think it is, and most veterans end up messing this part up. I will run you through this quickly as it can be a whole video in upon itself, but for time's sake, let's say you got 2 claims that you believe each are sitting at a high rating of 50%. That's a pretty good rating separately for 2 different claims. Normally, people would think a 50% plus a 50% gives you a 100% total. Well, wrong. You're wrong. That is not the case at all. You will actually end up with a disability rating of 75% using real math. But since the VA only pays out in 10% increments and not the halfway point, they will instead pay you out at the scheduled rate of 80%. This is just a little food for thought, so my best advice for you is when trying to calculate everything you have, please utilize a VA disability calculator online. There are many good ones, okay? I personally use the VA Claims Insider one as I like to use it from my phone, okay? But the DAV, the Disabled American Veterans Organization, has a nice nifty calculator on their website, as does the VA has their own calculator on their website. Whatever you find, if it works for you, it works. Just figure out your numbers and use a calculator. Do not think 50 plus 50 is going to give you 100. You got a long way to go. All right. Now that y'all have an idea of how the schedule of ratings works, and you have gathered all your medical documents you need to on your end, it's time to decide how you want to file. There are 2 ways to file while you are on active duty. The first one is either a BDD claim, or the second, wait till you walk off those installation gates and go talk to some local veteran service organization. American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Any one of those guys will be able to help you out. Now, personally, I waited until I had my DD-214 in hand, walked out those installation gates, and then I contacted the Disabled American Veterans Organization to assist me in pushing along all my documentation to the VA for my claim as my representation, because that is what I felt comfortable with. I utilized them as my VSO, and if anyone's wondering what a VSO is a VA accredited representative from a veterans service organization who can help veterans and their families with VA claims. They will get the process rolling in regards to any compensation and pension exams. You'll hear this term as CMP referred to quite oftenly, that you will need to attend. Don't miss a CMP exam. However, the one thing I did not realize is how long this entire process can take. It took me from start to finish close to a year for my original claim to be processed and finalized. And that is a long time to wait. And I know people talk about the back pay, but guess what? The back pay ain't gonna pay your mortgage, and it's not paying your car note, and it's not paying anything because you don't have it. And realistically, you're just banking on a number that you don't even have yet. You're counting the eggs before the chicken lays them, right? So, if I could go back and do it again, I would have taken the BDD route. And the BDD claim is a benefits delivery at discharge, where you will conduct all CMP exams and everything you need to finalize your claim to completion so that you get a rating close to or before you leave active duty, allowing the VA compensation checks to start rolling in almost immediately. The only thing that is needed on your end is to upload your actual DD-214 once you hit your ETS date don't procrastinate on this, as you won't be able to receive payments until you have officially joined the civilian population. Well, folks, that's all I got for now, and thanks for taking the time to tune in to Drop Ramp Intel, and hopefully this was able to help you or another soon-to-be veteran out. I know this can be a daunting process, and going at it alone can be hard. So don't. Use your resources and gather as much information as needed to give you the best chance for a successful VA claim. And remember, if you served, you deserve. Ramp up, Redcon 1, we rollin' out.